Routing is an interesting feature in Calendly. It makes use of logic to direct clients to the correct meeting or to the correct place. It makes use of a form where a client puts in information and then the logic decides where to direct them. I'm going to make use of two examples for me to demonstrate and show you how logic works in routing. So let's say you are a financial company. So we're just going to click here where it says routing to create a route for our meetings. And then we click create form, new form. Let's name our form qualifying. So in this case, we're just going to show how the logic can qualify information about a person. So let's say we first take the name of the person. Let's take first name and last name. Let's make this a required question. So the first thing is you can make use of this form to collect information about a client. And then we can even collect things like the email address. We can make this required or optional, but it would be good to be able to communicate with the client. Now that we have that information, we want to go to the qualifying bit. So we have different questions we can add. We can collect phone number, name, email, drop down, radio buttons, short answer, or a paragraph. In this case, we want to qualify the client by the amount that they make each year. So for example, we have 0 to 10,000, and we have 10 to 30, and so on. So the question will be, what is your annual income will be the question. And then we put the next one, which would be then 100K plus. Now, this will help us to qualify the clients that we are dealing with. Say you offer investments, but maybe the law only allows you to take clients that make 60,000 and above. So we will make this question required. So we save that. But before we go on to the logic, I wanted to show you something interesting about forms. When you're creating forms and you do not want to fill in information one by one like that, what can you do? You can actually do something interesting here. Let's just remove all of that. You can come here at the bottom and say switch to text view. You type the different responses that you need. I'm just going to copy them from a document and paste them here. The system will understand that these are different responses. When you save, they will be changed into that. So that's a way you can use to create these questions faster if they are a drop down or they are a radio button or checkboxes. So once you do this, you then go on to next. But before you do that, you can also edit the submit button, which the client will click. You can change its name there to say next, submit, or done. I'll just leave it as it is right now. Now that we have finished the form, designing the form, we want to move into logic. But before we move there, there is something that you also might need to add. You can add a headline to say maybe your company name, and then you can put a description below there which describes what your company does or any information that you want the client to know about. So it's more like a description in the invitee forms. So let's go on to logic. So our logic is to route people to a meeting if they earn 30,000 and above. Oh, I'd forgotten to add 100K there. So after finishing this form, we now go on to the logic to then qualify our clients or invitees. So we click next, and then we have to create what we call the routes. This is the logic that will direct the person to the right meeting. So we're going to make use of form answers. If you have Salesforce or HubSpot forms that you are using, you can make use of the responses to create routes, but we're using form answers from Calendly right now. So let's build the logic by clicking this. So we're going to qualify our clients by knowing what their income is. So in this example, if we choose is, if the income is 0 to 10, 10 to 30K, and 30 to 60, we are going to reject them. So we are going to say if your annual income is 0 to 10,000, or if your annual income is 10 to 30,000, or if your annual income is 30 to 60,000, we are just going to direct them to a custom message. So the custom message can read as, "Thank you for showing interest. We're unable to assist you with any of our products at the moment." It's just an illustration to show you that you can then redirect others to a message that you have created. You have an option to put a link on this message, or to format it, or to write an entire paragraph explaining why they've been sent to this message. Now, when we click save, we now have one route which takes care of 0 to 10K, 10 to 30, and 30 to 60. Now let's create a route which accepts clients. So we're going to use the form answers and say choose what annual income you're making. So if your annual income is, so we're using this if statement, your annual income is 60 to 100,000, or I'm supposed to use or 100,000 and above, then what will happen? We'll direct them to an event, right? And we choose that event to be a consultation meeting. So once we do that, we save. Once you have saved, you then publish the form. This is the link which you can share with someone to use it, or you can add it to your website by embedding it, putting it as a widget or pop-up text in your paragraphs. So right now we're just going to make use of the link. So I'm just going to show you how this link works, and we're going to test the logic there. So if we put the link there, you see DFG Financials, that's the heading there. We're just going to put the names right there. Now that we've entered the details, we're going to choose the annual income of 0 to 10. We can choose either of these three, we'll get the same result. So if we click submit, this is what happens. "Thank you for showing interest. We're unable to assist you with any of our products at the moment." So to test if 60,000 to 100,000 or 100,000 plus works, we then go back and redo the process by going to the same part and entering details as well. Now that we've entered the details on the second time, we then choose 60,000 to 100,000 or 100,000 and above. Once we do that, we click submit. And as you can see, it then takes us to the booking page of the consultation meeting as we had set up in the logic. So when you want to qualify your leads, you can make use of routing. But there's another function I wanted to show you there. If we go back, you notice that as we were making use of this, there's this end function. So you can read up on when you're making use of if statements, you can make use of or and. So if we use an and there, it means that both of the conditions have to be true for us to proceed. That's all it means. Or means if any of these conditions are available, we can proceed. So I'm just going to modify the logic there so that you understand how AND works. So to create that, let's just go back to the logic and back to the form. What I'm going to do here is to add an additional question. So what is the value of your assets? And then we say below 60,000 and above 60,000, and we make this question required. We just want to show how the AND function works in the logic because we've used the OR function. Now that we've added this question, let's go back to the logic. On the logic, let's change the first question, which says, what is your annual income? It's always going to direct the person to, thank you for showing interest. We're going to add another question here. So if this condition is true, and if this next condition of the value of assets is less than 60,000, then the person will be directed to this message. However, We want to create a second condition. This condition is almost similar to this one. So what we'll do is to duplicate, clone the route, but we want to change to say, if your annual income is 0 to 10, 10 to 30, and 30 to 60, but your assets are above 60,000, we want you to be directed to the event, which is the consultation meeting. Just to illustrate, we're saying if someone's income is below 60,000 and their assets are above 60,000, if we add that together, then they meet our conditions. So we'll allow them to pass through even if they have a salary that is less than 60,000. That is why we added this condition, just to show you how to make use of the end condition. So once we do that, we share the form. The link will always be the same. We go back and then we paste it in our browser. Once we do that, we then go to test and see how this works. I've added the name and the email. So say our income is below 60,000 and the value of the assets are also below 60,000. And we submit that. It always takes us back to this place. However, if we want to then check the second condition to say someone has maybe 0 to 10,000, but their assets are above 60,000, after entering these details, we then click submit. You see what happens? They are taken to the consultation meeting. So you see, you can make use of those conditions in logic to do exactly what you want. So you can have very useful kind of qualifications by adding as many questions and making use of the and or logic there to get the right result. So that's how you make use of routing in qualifying. However, there's a second way you can make use of it, which is very, very simple. I'm just going to make use of a second question. So you notice that on routing, this is a different route. We're going to create a different one, which is used to probably direct people to the right meetings. So what I'm just going to do is to create, to say direct to meeting, a different route, and say create form. So that's a different form there. I'm just going to add a simple question with radio buttons. I like those. What would you like to do? Now, making use of this function, just going to copy in the answers there. The person needs training, consultation, or support. They will be directed to the right place if they choose one of these. So what is the logic? We just go to next and create routes and then say if the person is saying that they want training, then we simply direct them to the event type, which has got to do with training, and then we save. That's the first route we've created. And we create a second one to say if the person is saying that they want consultation, let's direct them to an event type, which is consultation, and then save. And then we create the last one, which says if they want support, take them to an event type that is about support, and then you click save. Once you do this, you publish the form. You can add it to your website by embedding it, but let's just copy it and then paste it in our browser. So just to test, we want support. If you click support, it will take you to the support call. So this is how it works. All you have to do is to make sure you design the right logic and then direct to the right meeting or event that you want your client to go. So this is how you make use of routing. But before we go, I just want to show you that there are also three options where you can send a person, which is the destination here. You can send them to an event type. We've done that. We can send them to a custom message. We have done that. You can also send them to an external URL, which means you can send them to your website or to an article that you want them to read, and then they can take action after that. So these are the three destinations that you can send your client. That's all you have to do for your routing to work well for you.